But one of the things they're going to do, they're going to get more vicious in their attempts to extract money from us in order to keep putting off the inevitable monetary collapse.
If we want to change this system, we've got to stop participating in it, because this is nonsense. They are printing money off the backs of you and your children's worth. They are printing money off the back of that to go and have wars everywhere else in the world so they can get resources, steal those resources from those other nations and keep them impoverished in order to make sure that you get a new iPhone every year.
It's actually not even that anymore. We're not going to get new iPhones anymore. They're printing money, stealing our future labor and our children's future labor in order to create a techno-feudal prison for us so that we're forever underneath their jackboot and so that they can dim the bloody sun so we don't have any bloody sunlight.
Using Wi-Fi without NordVPN could mean sharing your private stuff with more people than you think. NordVPN. Online security starts with a click.
When tyranny becomes law, rebellion becomes a duty. So said Thomas Jefferson. Go to bit.ly/lawful tax protest or bit.ly/make-war-history and find out why it is a criminal offence to pay central government or local government taxes in the UK. And let's make war history. Hey, Gordon.
Hello, Rich. How are you?
I am very, very well. It's Friday the 9th of May, 2 minutes past 8 UK time. And what's that? Beer? Not some other amber liquid.
Yeah, I know you don't drink.
No, I don't drink. No. Okay, what are we going to talk about today?
There's no news.
There is no news. Well, actually,
boring out there. Everything's working very smoothly, and there are no reasons to worry.
Yeah, there is something that we're going to touch upon. I am going to talk about this because I think this is relevant. This is probitycode.com, bit.ly/make-war-history. So, I covered this loads on my video. And really, for people in the UK, it is a criminal offence to pay any income to any government, central or local government agency in any form, directly or indirectly. And why that is because the government, by using some of that money to further war, terrorism, genocide, crimes against humanity, war crimes, is in violation of the Terrorism Act and the International Criminal Court Act. So if you go to probitycode.com, you can download a very simple trust form. Now, trusts are recognized by government agencies. The HMRC is itself a trust, the Recognition of Trust Act 1987, and they're also part of England's legal and lawful tradition. So you set up a discretionary revocable conditional trust, which you can download, which essentially says HMRC or local government can have the money provided they can demonstrate that none of that money is being used in violation of the International Criminal Court Act and the Terrorism Act, because all government agencies are bound by those statutes. So it's a criminal offence to pay any money to any agency that's going to facilitate terrorism or genocide or crimes against humanity or war crimes. And what this government is doing with regards to the slaughter in Yemen, with regards to the slaughter in Gaza, with regards to the slaughter in Ukraine, is criminal. And it's a violation of domestic law and international law. So HMRC or local authority will fail to demonstrate that they're not breaking the law, in which case, according to the trust, the funds which you don't send them, they go to the secondary beneficiary, which could be yourself, it could be any other. So I just want to presence that because I think it's important and relevant to what we're dealing with. Anything?
Send it to a local charity.
You could. You could.
Actually see your tax money go to work in your local area, so what difference you could make yourself.
Yeah.
Rather than give it to people who seem to want to lie to you about everything and have lots of wars.
Have lots and lots of wars. And Gordon, this is what happens in history when currency dies. When the out of integrity, the fundamental flaw within currency, not money, not gold, not silver, not Bitcoin, but in currency, which is a derivative of money and which gets debased because the government just keep printing more and more and more. Now, before they would debase the money by, clipping the silver coins or using cheaper and cheaper, more, grades of metal. So they debase it. So you take 1 ounce of silver, 99.9% silver, a silver coin, and then you mix it in with something else, and now you've got 2 ounces that look like silver, but it's still only 1 ounce of silver. You've mixed in something else, and you've debased the currency that way. So this always happens, and when that energy exchange, that value transfer that money represents, gets distorted, then we have what we have now. The government's getting increasingly authoritarian, attempting to hold on to power, wars breaking out, wars over resources, and eventually some form of revolution. But the difference now is because information spreads so quickly, and it's not so easy for governments to control the narrative, we can put a stop to this much, much quicker.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of like, I think I've said this before. Excuse me. It's like the end of Terminator 2, when the T-1000 is dropped into that big fiery vat. The liquid metal Terminator, and you see it sort of coming up in the vat at the end, and it's taking on all forms that it's took throughout the whole film as it tries to fight. And this is what you're seeing to basically governments. This is governments doing it. All the ugliness that they've been doing for the last decade, 40, 50 years, hundreds of years in some cases. As this is dying, it's getting worse and worse. And they've only got certain tools at their discretion, and the tool they've got is a hammer, and they just think they can bash other countries into submission and to use our money, let us steal your resources and give you a cent on the dollar and this is an old thing that's dying out, and this is why the world, I think, is so crazy.
Yes, and not just bashing other countries, bashing their own. Yeah,
boomerang theory, big time.
Yeah, because empires end up eating their own, which is what's happening in the UK and the European Union. And then because the debts are unpayable, there's no pensions, there's no money for it. You need at least 6% interest rates to be 6% in order for pension funds to make some sort of return to be able to pay out. Well, in Europe, in the European Union, we had NERP and ZERP. Well, how are pension funds going to make any money? And then in the UK, we haven't had NERP, negative interest rates, or zero interest rates. We've had very, very low interest rates, much lower than 6%. So pension funds aren't going to make any money. So then what we have is this, that kind of explains the euthanasia bill, the assisted murder bill, where the government can say, okay, we're going to make it available as a service for people to kill themselves on the NHS. And then there's so much, right? But one of the things they're going to do, they're going to get more vicious in their attempts to extract money from us in order to keep putting off the inevitable monetary collapse. It'll come a point, Gordon, when you run up your credit card and then you're borrowing on another credit card to pay off the first credit card, and then you're borrowing on a third credit card to pay off the second to pay off the first, and then you're borrowing on a fourth to pay off the third to pay off the second to pay off the first. And at some point, somewhere down the line, someone's going to say, no, the debt is now too large, you got no more credit. And that's what happened with Merz when he wasn't elected as the Chancellor, the first time since the Second World War that's ever happened. And instead of waiting a few weeks or something for the vote, they had to do the vote a few hours later because the German bond market had collapsed. German bonds, the strongest bonds, German debt, the strongest debt in the European Union, they didn't auction, which means blah, 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 buy this bond, blah, 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 right? 70% sold. They didn't have enough buyers. People weren't willing to buy German bond. Why would you buy German debt when Germany doesn't have a chancellor and it's all in chaos and everything? So they did the vote real quick. He got elected and papered over the financial fraud and how that Germany is in and Europe Union is in. And the next thing you're going to do, and I said I wanted to talk to you about this, right? So I'm going to share my screen.
Can I just ask you first of all?
Yeah.
You know this debt you keep talking about?
Yeah.
Who's it owed to? Who's the debt owed
Bondholders.
to? And who is responsible for that debt? Who's the debtor? Who's the person?
Who's going to pay on it?
Who the people? Yeah.
Yeah, people through taxation.
Right, okay. So, see, you know that credit card analogy?
Yeah.
Right? So I've had credit cards in the past. I haven't got one now. But I've had credit cards in the past. And you know what I did when the debt got unsustainable? I stopped paying it.
Right.
And when they turned up at the doorstep, I was like, Gordon Dimmack, that bastard, he owes me money. Let me know if you find him, won't you? And basically just hid from them. Can we do that? Can we just all just go, nah? But it ties into what probity is. You know, we've got to start. If we want to change this system, we've got to stop participating in it, because this is nonsense. They are printing money off the backs of you and your children's worth,
yeah,
and
our
your
energy,
and your
our
energy.
effort.
They are printing money off the back of that to go and have wars everywhere else in the world, so they can get resources, steal those resources from those other nations and keep them impoverished in order to make sure that you get a new iPhone every year.
Yep. But it's actually not even that anymore. We're not going to get new iPhones anymore. They're printing money, stealing our future labor and our children's future labor in order to create a techno-feudal prison for us, so that we're forever underneath their jackboot, and so that they can dim the bloody sun, so we don't have any bloody sunlight.
And in an environment where nobody knows what the truth is. You know, we'll be living in a post-truth world where, you know, everybody will have their own different facts and, you know, alternative facts. And meanwhile, you know, that was the aim of Project Mockingbird in the beginning, wasn't it? When Bill Casey was at his first meeting with Ronald Reagan, when Ronald Reagan, how will you know your disinformation campaign is complete? And he answered, we will know it's complete when everything the American public believe is false. Because if nobody knows what the truth is, how can you organise against any oppression if you don't know what the truth is? And this is why your media is lying to you right now en masse, and all in the same direction. Have you noticed that? Sky, Channel 4, the BBC, a lot of them, they're all in there's no, I mean, when I was growing up, the newspapers used to take glee in when another newspaper got a story wrong. But they weren't in lockstep with each other. No. They were dissenting narratives. Now it's quite frightening how they all are wrong in the same direction every single time.
Yep.
It's they all, when they're wrong on an issue, they're all wrong at once and saying almost identical things as they are wrong as well. It's almost like what they're telling you doesn't come from them. It comes from somewhere above them.
It doesn't. They're all controlled and manipulated and doing the bidding of their paymasters, like safe and effective, safe and effective, safe and effective. And then Kit Clarenberg in Zero Hedge today, there was a great article by Kit Clarenberg, who's a journalist for Grey Zone, about how the conversation's developing that because Trump is opposed to CBDCs, CBDCs are a good thing. It's a way of resisting American hegemony. And what Kit Clarenberg says is that some people will fall for it. Oh, if Trump's against it, it must be a good thing. Let's go for CBDCs as a way of getting out from underneath the American hegemonic control.
Well, I mean, if you believe that a man can run in the 800 meters Olympic final for women, and you feel that that's okay, then I guess.
Well, he feels like a woman, Gordon. So it's the same thing.
What do you feel like to be a woman?
What do you
feel like to be a man, Rich? Can you answer that question?
It's like this. I can imagine what it's like for a man to pretend that he feels like a woman. I can do that. But like, I have no idea what it feels like to be a woman. I mean, I could put on a dress and say, look, this is what I think it's like, but what do I know? I'm a man in a dress.
We're losing the left, mate. We're losing the left. We're losing all the Owen Joe in the crowd.
The left has lost itself. The left has lost. There's an authentic left, Gordon. An authentic left, a liberty-loving left, one that's willing to
I
engage
think
in
there's an authentic right as well. I think there's an authentic all the way across. You know, I look at people in America like not Rand Paul, his dad,
Ron Paul.
Ron Paul. He's and Rand Paul to a certain degree as well. He's authentic conservative, not like the conservatives over here. They're not conservative at all. I don't know what they've become.
No, Ron Paul's liberty-loving. So there is this liberty-loving left, which I think, George Galloway, I think you and I, although I don't know if I'm left-wing anymore, if it counts, right? It's just,
Apparently
I'm for liberty.
I learned how to do martial arts, and that makes me a crazy right-winger now.
Yes. Well, I exercise and I eat meat.
You're a right-winger. You're a crazy right-wing crowd.
I believe in closed borders as well, that you should vet people who are coming into your national vote.
You are definitely over there on the far right with Joe Rogan and Jimmy Dore. On the far right. On the far right. They're saying Jimmy Dore's far right. He wants healthcare for everyone and fairness for the working class. Does that sound like the far right to you?
Well, he's anti-war. That makes him far right. Like Orban. Far right. Anti-war. Far right.
You see what I mean? It'd be like, nobody knows what the left and right is anymore.
Yeah.
They're saying Joe Biden is the radical left. The only thing radical left about Joe Biden is he's further right than Margaret Thatcher was on the spectrum. I suppose that would be pretty radical for a lefty, right? To be further to the right. That's the only way I can consider that. And
who's far right? Who's far right is who the media tells you is far right, because they always say like the AfD far right. Anti-war, they want peace with Russia.
Peace with Russia. They want to be able to get cheap gas. They want to be able to protect their borders. They want a fair and reasonable immigration policy.
They want to encourage domestic business. All right. Okay, look, well, the other thing, I want to bring it back to tax, right? And then we can wonder about the other thing that governments are going to do increasingly is try and extract more and more wealth from our people. Let me share this with you. So this is a thread by a guy called Alex Rakuso, The Great European Confiscation. So Europe has deindustrialized and has blown up the economy. So we know that because, they don't have cheap energy anymore. How can they have industrial industry that competes with the rest of the world? European model is great manufacturing, great products that they sell to the US. Now, EU countries are bankrupt and preparing for asset seizure. Central banks are insolvent, as can be seen here. This is how they'll bail them out. Bailing out, that's from the FT. So first they printed trillions and told you inflation was transitory. Now they're taxing trillions and telling you taxes are transitory. France has just announced new tax hikes. But don't worry, they say, they target the wealthy. I mean, that's the thing with income tax in the United States. It was a penny. 1%. 1% was what it was, and then it expands and expands and expands. Italy's going to raise capital gain taxes from 26% to 42%. And I don't know if you've heard, Gordon, there are proposals to tax unrealized gains.
Yeah, I heard that. I heard that with regards to people who had got houses inherited to them from their parents.
Yeah. Tax. So then you have to sell the actual asset to pay the tax.
Yeah, and obviously this is the way they try to grab the farmers' stuff off them as well.
Yep. So don't worry, they say they'll only target Bitcoin. In other places, it's plain wealth taxes. Norway raised wealth taxes to bring in an additional $146 million in yearly tax revenue. Instead, individuals worth $54 billion left the country, leading to a loss of $594 million in yearly wealth tax revenue, a net decrease of $448 million. So then what Norway's going to do, I expect, like other countries who are facing an exodus of the rich, is squeeze harder those that are left. And not for investment. It's not like they're going to invest in industry and create jobs. No, this is to line their own pockets, create the techno-feudal state, and pay off debt. Spain recorded 1,000 fewer high net worth taxpayers, the first negative millionaire migration since the country imposed a tax on wealth. Thousands of millionaires are leaving, while coincidentally, tax pressures are all-time high.
That wouldn't bother me.
Well, it does because it reduces the revenue.
Wouldn't bother me. Yeah, but fuck them. They're millionaires. Fuck them. Babe, I called you then. Mate, I'm penniless and I'm leaving at the first opportunity. Fuck them. Is it really because they're being taxed, or is it because they've just fucking had enough of the country? Because I bet you there's half of them have just had enough.
It could be a function of both. But think about it, right? You got $10 million cash flow or whatever, right? Go and live in Dubai. You don't pay any tax. Why would you want to give away, I don't know, £4 million?
Well, no Formula One driver lives in the UK, do they?
Right.
I mean,
So,
they all live in
then what
Monaco.
happens? But then what happens, Gordon, is there's less revenue. It's a capital.
Yeah, right.
It's capital. It's
Yeah,
money
it's fine.
leaving.
That's fine. Yeah, bring it on.
But
Because that means the system gets stretched even further and breaks even quicker. And I'm looking forward to that. No, I'm serious. Let them go. Seriously, let them go, because there's no way that they can. What are they going to suck out of us next for money? Are they going to bleed our bodies dry of blood and start selling it in adrenochrome drums? Or are they already doing that? You know, I've got a few friends that believe that to be true.
nobody wants. Apparently, our adrenochrome is no good.
You wouldn't want mine too high into that.
No. It's far too rancid and stale.
Mine would make you high, but for a totally different reason.
Well, look at this. Look at it. 9,500 millionaires left the UK in 2024.
9,500.
Yeah. I mean, that would include billionaires as well. But that investment's not happening here. So it is going to accelerate the collapse. Then in 2023, the UK lost around 12,500 high net worth individuals.
Those these rookie numbers. We've got to get them up, Rich. we got to get them up. We've got to bring this collapse on quicker.
Well, maybe we should leave, right? Anybody earning more than £50,000 a year should leave. The proposed solution: an exit tax for citizens leaving the country. So modern feudalism is coming to European countries. So the poor, those that are left behind, will get poorer and poorer.
But you can't take your shit with you.
Yeah, unless you've got Bitcoin.
Unless you've got Bitcoin.
Do you know about this? The EU want to create a register of all of people's assets
to help with financial transparency, because the European Union are nothing but transparent with their finances, aren't they?
And her in particular, because she still hasn't released details of the contract with Pfizer, and her husband works for Pfizer.
No, but financial transparency.
For thee, not for me. So they'll create this register in order so they'll know what people have, and then they can tax people on that, on your paintings, on your crypto. And then this is really great. I think I must have told you this. They want to ban anonymous, privacy-focused cryptocurrencies.
How are they going to ban them? They're anonymous.
What they're going to do? What they're going to do is, for those, they're going to shut off the exit ramps and the on ramps.
Yeah. So you can't change it into money that you can use tangibly.
Yeah. So, for example, the exchanges that are that operate in Europe, they won't be able to sell or buy privacy cryptocurrencies like Pirate Chain. But all that will happen is those cryptocurrencies. I mean, like TradeOgre.com. I have no idea. It's just email, sign up. You don't even have to use your real email. Create a fake email or whatever, anonymous email, sign up. It won't do cryptocurrency to fiat transactions, but you can send Bitcoin there and then buy Pirate Chain. Not a problem. And then your Bitcoin on your Pirate Chain is now completely anonymous in a wallet. Nobody knows what's in the wallet. Nobody can look inside. So,
this goal, by the way, this Ursula von der Leyen, last week I noticed it was the same day as Israeli drones bombed a freedom flotilla full of aid heading towards Gaza. They hit it with drones. It was in Malta. It was in international waters in Malta, thousands of miles from Israel. So as Israel are bombing aid ships, they've also had these wildfires in Israel as well. And she, as they were bombing an aid ship, was sending out a Twitter message trying to get countries and bragging about how their countries had sent aid to Israel to fight the wildfires.
Wow.
The same day. These people are vampires.
Absolutely.
My friend Danny Shearson, who's an army major in the US, he calls them vampires. He calls people like Tony Blair vampires. Yeah. They are totally unaware of how you and I, they do not have any reflection whatsoever. And she's one of them.
Wow. So then your bank account, shares, cars, precious metals, works of art, and Bitcoin, register it all to fight money laundering. So eventually they will try to seize your Bitcoin. just like the US sees gold with Executive Order 6102. So buy Bitcoin and get it off exchanges. They can't seize Bitcoin if you self-custody. That's right. Get your own wallet, not your.
You and I have been saying this. You told me to do it very early on with a cold wallet. You've got to get it off those exchanges into a cold wallet, and there are various methods to do it, but learn how to do it. Obviously, you've got videos showing people how to do it, and you helped me, and I'm eternally thankful for it, because if you don't, the thing is, Max Kaiser, very early on, as I learned about cryptocurrencies, if you don't hold the keys, you don't have the wallet.
You don't have the crypto. You don't hold the
get it off those exchange networks as soon as you've bought it or transferred it or whatever.
And you put it into a hardware wallet like Keystone, and I have an affiliate link, then it's offline. It's completely offline. And the Keystone wallet, bit.ly/CryptoRich Keystone, is open source. So it's been checked for bugs and everything. Keep loads of cryptos in it. And it's not connected to the internet. Except when you want to use it, you don't connect it directly.
That sounds dangerous. Ban it immediately.
That's right. They can ban it. That's right. So what will they do to stop you leaving? They will revoke your passport. This guy's a search. A mobility.
They will. If I wanted to leave this country, they would open the door and say, "Please fuck off as soon as you can."
Well, you know the migrants on those little boats that are coming in, right? You can just take one of the boats back.
Exactly. Jump on one of those. You will have an exodus. Oh, wouldn't that be beautiful if in the next few years you get boats going to France of English people looking for asylum?
Now, the only problem is the EU is going to be just as bad as Britain. They're going to be just as bad as each other. We're going to have to go further afield.
Yeah, we'll just use France as a dropping off point and make our way through to Africa. I hear Africa's going to do quite well in the future, so I'll go there.
Yes, which is why this is so important.
I'm sure they'd have no problem with a white person turning up on their shores. I'm sure they wouldn't have a problem at all. Sure, they'd help me, no questions asked.
This is why this is so important, because not only can we protest against war, we can protest against them dimming the sky, we can protest against net zero, or we can just use this as a method to keep more of our currency in order to afford day-to-day living, pay those bills, buy that food. Because they're going to put in a tax on meat. They want to make meat more expensive. Because how else are they going to get us to eat bugs?
But you don't understand. If we eat the bugs, we can change the weather. Don't you understand how simple a theory that is?
Very important. Thank you. Oh man, it's crazier and crazier and crazier. So anyway, Gordon, thank you for letting me do that. Now, where do you want to go?
My attention's pretty much on Gaza, as it has been for quite a while, and yeah, on everything happening there. But I kind of feel like, I don't know, everything else is a distraction from it. Do you know what I mean? I feel like everything else is a distraction from it, and I feel like you only need to look at how the BBC have not been reporting fairly and in an unbiased way on Israel to see just how important it is. You know, one of my friends is abroad at the moment, Rich. I don't know whether I told you this, but they can't come back to the country because they will be arrested if they come back under an anti-terrorism law, because they support international law and human rights and are on the side of the Palestinians and are vocal about it. And you only need to look at how they're going after journalists such as Richard Medhurst and Sarah Wilkinson and many others. And you only need to look at the evidence that is pointing to these people were arrested at the direction of the Israeli embassy. These are the latest documents that we've got, highly redacted, obviously, but it does look like the UK is under occupation, and it's not just the Palestinians. And I believe that you only need to look at the way the mainstream media are not reporting journalists in this country being arrested at the request of another apartheid state to see just how important it is, because they should all be reporting it, right? If the BBC was fair and unbiased and balanced, then it would be, because this is a huge story, but they're not. Yeah. So you know that the what's happening in Gaza and what's happening with Israel is the big issue, and these people are dying, and it's right in front of our faces and on our phones. It's been over 2 years now, and apparently nothing justified what happened on October the 7th, but October the 7th has justified everything that Israel have done since, according to our media, and this is the line that they're trying to convince every intelligent person in this country to believe in. So I think that's where our focus is, and I think that it will be yet another stain on our history that we supported this absolute, the crime of the 21st century, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, well, another stain on British imperial history.
Right, and you've got people on GB News right now, I heard, I think it was Carol Malone, arguing that actually colonials, this was good, colonialism was. It was that we brought education and healthcare and roads and train tracks.
And slaughter.
It's not for them.
Yeah.
It's not for them, the people in the country whose resources you were stealing from and all the jewels, brought it for us. And then we left it there when we kicked them out. So it wasn't all bad. Those hundreds of millions of people, 200 years of occupation of Ireland, that was good. That was the colonial rule of India and all those millions. It was good. We brought them some train track.
But Gordon, what you're pointing to there and earlier is people don't know because it's not being reported. It's like the whole thing about safe and effective, safe and effective, safe and effective, safe and effective. People didn't know to look. And even with climate change, I haven't met anybody who's actually put the climate change, the argument to one side, examined them for themselves, and then concluded that carbon dioxide is the worst thing for the environment.
Do you know that WikiLeaks? Do you know ClimateGate on WikiLeaks? What it was all about?
That was at University of Essex years ago, wasn't it?
Okay, you know more about it than me. Then I only know the periphery of it. Basically, what happened was the university or whatever it was got something majorly wrong in their assessments, and basically WikiLeaks proved that it was wrong. And the reason that they got away with this absolute, let's say got away, the reason this mistake went on for so long was because, quote, nobody checked the data.
Yeah.
Not a single person. Nobody, not within the organisation, and it didn't have a single download until WikiLeaks found it and released it.
Yeah.
Nobody checked it. It's just, somebody said it. He's got a white jacket on. Must be telling the truth then. Must be telling the truth. Dr. Fauci, he had a white jacket on. He told the truth all the time. So therefore, anybody with a white jacket, we must believe everything that they say, right? That's right? Yes, absolutely. Right. Pray you never come across a doctor called Mengele with that attitude.
No, but I mean, like for example, those that are pro climate change, they don't know where it came from.
You've changed my position on climate change.
It wasn't a scientist; it was the Club of Rome. They wanted to create a conversation that would justify global control of humanity. So, but it doesn't get reported, and then what people don't do is their own digging. They don't do their own digging. Perhaps, I don't know, it doesn't even occur to them or something.
They don't know. I don't think they know. I mean, it took me years of, spending hours upon hours a day researching to form the opinions that I've got. And I know that I'm not right in everything, and how could I be? But, I do understand the world enough to be able to explain to people who don't understand it pretty quickly what is going on. But I can imagine that to them, if they've been listening to the BBC, or if not, and they have no clue and no frame of reference, I must sound like a crazy person.
Yes.
I remember one of the first interviews I did with Ben Norton, great journalist Ben Norton. And he was telling me, I mean, this is going back almost a decade, and he was telling me how the United States had got together with Saudi Arabia to overproduce oil, to drive the price of global oil down, to make Venezuela's oil uncompetitive and to cause them a massive recession and drive the inflation up. And I was sitting there gobsmacked. It was like, this is ridiculous. It's a bit Machiavellian, I said. And Ben looked at me like, oh, Bambi, he doesn't get it yet. And this is, when you explain to people, basically what's happening in Africa is All right, you go to Ivory Coast or you go to Congo. Okay, they've just signed a security deal with America because America have been funding armed rebels in Rwanda and the M23, etc., in the surrounding countries to go into Congo and destabilize the country in order to basically put pressure on the people there into what? Letting America come in and do a deal with for their resources because they need it for the car batteries. You would think that's crazy, but every single word I've just said is true. Go and ask Jeffrey Sachs. Go and ask somebody at the UN. They will tell you that this is happening.
Yep.
BBC won't know.
You know, they do all sorts of shenanigans. I mean, because the temptation is so great.
It's the mafia.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a lot of resources you've got. Oh, that's a lovely amount of resources you've got under your soil there. It would be a real shame, wouldn't it, if armed rebels came into your country from elsewhere and started messing up everything and trying to steal it for themselves. You need some security to stop this from happening.
Well, the armed rebels.
Racket? No, this is an offer you can't refuse.
Well, that would connect us to Pakistan and India.
Oh.
MI6. I suspect MI6.
Yeah, MI6. I got a feeling what was this terrorist attack, mate?
Yeah, while Vance is in India working stuff out with
that guy, the angel of death. You went to see the Pope. Within 24 hours, the Pope died, and then 2 weeks later, we've got an American Pope from Chicago. So he's the angel of death. That guy is.
I hadn't thought of that.
I'll tell you.
I hadn't thought of that. But here's what I noticed with the Pakistan-India conflict, right? It blew up. Just that was the timing when Vance is visiting Modi.
Right.
And the other thing is that had Imran Khan been in power, I doubt we would have a conflict. Because there was an incident a few years ago when he was Prime Minister when an Indian air pilot was captured in Pakistani airspace and he negotiated the return of that pilot. You know, he worked it out through diplomatic means because it doesn't serve India and it certainly doesn't serve Pakistan, which is significantly weaker and smaller than India, to go to war with India. And it doesn't serve humanity because you got two nuclear powers and Pakistan, you know, it's like, I don't think it'll come to that. I certainly hope it doesn't to either of them using nuclear weapons because they're very evenly matched in that regard. And then the other thing that I notice, because I've got family in Pakistan, is just the amount of propaganda and smokescreen. Don't know what's going on. I think with regards to the Ukraine-Russia war, because I'm a bit removed from it, I'm not pro-Russia, I'm not pro-Ukraine, I'm pro-peace. So I don't see the pro-Russia.
I'm pro-Russia. I'm pro-Russia, 100%. Come and lock me up. I'm saying it now, I'm pro-Russia.
Oh, I'm pro-peace, right? We need to have a peaceful settlement. I think I agree with you, you know, that Russia were completely provoked and they were left with no other choice, right? I do get it, and I think it's damn foolish. And Boris Johnson is a murderer for flying over and telling Zelensky not to sign that deal in April 2022, responsible for the death of hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians.
I don't think he told him. I think he went over there and just said, "Listen, nobody is going to let you do this."
Well, whatever, right?
I think it was the envoy to tell him. I don't think he.
We will back you up. We will back you up.
Yeah.
But it's that enmity, that age-old enmity and hostility between Britain and Russia. You know, the Europeans and the Britons, they want Russia's resources. But anyway, back to India and Pakistan, right? Just noticing how much is lost in the fog of war. Claim and counterclaim and claim and counterclaim. And then also, you know, you sent me that clip of that little Indian kid saying, no, I don't want Pakistan destroyed. I don't want India destroyed. They're humans. So that the war doesn't serve ordinary people. It serves the elites. They are sacrificing our lives, our livelihoods, our children, our parents, our relatives, our friends for their own material gains, which is why bit.ly/makewarhistory. We got to do what we can to stand for peace. So it's not looking good.
Yeah, but you know how great was Game of Thrones? Eh? Wasn't that great?
Oh God!
All right. How great was House of Dragon?
Oh, right.
It's not all that bad, is it?
Okay, the local elections. The local elections.
The local elections.
I thought there would be more of a stink. That it actually, the Labour Party members would be like, look, Labour Party is dying out. We need to get rid of Starmer and change course. Nothing.
I don't think they care.
Well,
I don't think they care. I think they all know.
They're appointees, aren't they? They're not politicians. They're appointees.
And it doesn't matter. Even if they're out this cycle, they'll be back in some cycle. And some of them, if they say the right things and make the right moves, they'll end up in the House of Lords in no time.
Yeah.
It's this is the world they live in. They don't care. They really don't.
I agree with you. They don't care, but I think the reason why they don't care is because they're career central office appointees versus people who've come, like Peter Shaw did, or Arthur Scargill, or Jeremy Corbyn, or George Galloway.
George Galloway will tell you these people. He's like even George Galloway doesn't recognise them. He's like if these people walk past you in the street in your own constituency, you wouldn't recognise them. These are just these are not his words, but that's paraphrasing what he says. As far as I'm concerned, they're no more than bureaucrats. They're just pushing paperwork. That's it.
Faceless. Apart from Mike Ainsbury, who if you were a constituent of his, you want to avoid because he'll thump you.
yeah. Well, what happened is Keir Starmer told him he needs to go out and connect with the electorate. Like, you remember Tony Blair told John Prescott the same thing? It went over a little bit wrong, didn't it?
Yeah. So anyway, so what's your take?
My take on what?
On the local elections.
It's really weird, mate, because before I started doing this 10 years ago, I'd never voted in my life. I'd not voted once. I was in my mid-40s before I voted, and I actually started doing the news very soon afterwards. That's sort of became when I became politically aware. And the reason I never voted was because it was like, it doesn't change anything. It doesn't matter who you vote for, the government get in, and just take your lumps. And I don't vote, therefore I can complain all I want. Whereas you voted, you've got no cause to complain at all. And that was the way I thought. And then I started getting more politically active and started, telling people to vote this way and that way. And here we are nearly a decade later, and I'm here to sit to you and saying to you, voting doesn't matter. I was part of an election campaign last year in Blackburn. And I'm telling you, if you think you've got a democracy, then yeah, you're going to get up close and personal with what happens on a campaign. Craig Murray was going to win in Blackburn. He was going to beat Labour. Such was the anti-Labour sentiment in Blackburn. He was going to beat them. So Labour ran two candidates. They ran the Labour candidate, and they ran another candidate, another guy locally. He had the same campaign manager as Jack Straw, who was the MP for Blackburn for about 30 years. And all the same people behind him. Labour just literally switched their allegiance from the Labour politician up there, who I hear was quite good, by the way, one of the better ones, and moved it to this Adnan guy, who was a young puppet, 30 years old, solicitor. And he barely won against Craig. Craig got like 8,000 votes or something like that. But that's what happened. Craig was going to win, so the Labour Party ran two candidates against him. And he's not the only person that happened to in this country. That happened to many people who were running for the Workers' Party. The Workers' Party, who did have a sitting politician at the last election, who got next to no airtime whatsoever. Nigel Farage, however, who up until that point had never been in government, had lost every election, was getting all the airtime you could possibly imagine, even without having a single MP. What you're looking at is not a democracy. We have no rights to go anywhere around the world, any Englishman or Brit, and start saying you need democratic values or you need a democracy, you need that, because we haven't got one at home. You all voted for Keir Starmer to get the Tories out. Well, how's that going? How's that doing? He's right up there saying, oh, yes, you wanted change, so we're going to go faster and harder. Meanwhile, he's done everything the Tories were going to do and were doing, and then put them on steroids.
Gordon, he's worse. He's worse than the Tories. Absolutely.
You don't have democracy. You have a bunch of people who are ruling over you like pharaohs, and who are deciding your entire lives. And I've sort of checked out a bit now. Last year with the election in Blackburn, that really soured me. That was like, okay, this country is not a democracy. If this can happen in such an important election, with a genocide going on, and with genocide being the front and centre argument. Blackburn's a very heavily Muslim constituency. If that can happen, and such in broad daylight, and nobody report on it apart from me and a couple of other people, Crispin and what have you, then something's seriously wrong, because you don't have a democracy without a viable fourth estate holding it to account. And there was nobody other than us, few people in independent media who have got a very limited budget and a very limited time. There was nobody covering it whatsoever, and it was criminal what happened. So, with regards to the elections, I hear Reform did very well, and I'm sure if Reform come into power the next election, then your lives immediately will get better. I'm sure giving your votes to millionaires who are controlled by a billionaire and telling you that people that with no money and no power come in here to steal our jobs and take our benefits at the same time, and it's all their fault that we're in this shit, then I don't know what to tell you. But it was fun that Labour lost so many votes, and it's fun that nobody trusts the Tories in anymore. It's just a shame that nobody is being given a fair option. And until they do get that fair option, and the people and parties like the Workers' Party get a fair crack of the whip, then we do not have a democracy at all, and we've got no rights in pointing fingers anywhere on the planet.
Yep, and I would echo that. I think Workers' Party and David Curtin's Heritage Party are authentic.
He's against abortion, David Curtin.
Listen, that's fine. That's fine. In terms of all the other stuff,
if you want to win votes, David, stop telling women what to do with their bodies. Here's some free advice for you.
Gordon, there's never going to be a party where I agree with every single thing, ever, right? Yes, he's opposed to abortion, but he's anti-war. He was anti-lockdown. He was anti the injection mandates. He's anti-net zero. He's pro-family. He's pro-Christian values. He's
it's like
borders.
Yeah, but it's like, okay. The girl your daughter, the guy your daughter comes home with, right? It's like, yeah, he's got a great job. He's funny. He's intelligent. He's got wonderful dress sense. His family, well, they're the Mansons. It's kind of like. Why are you putting that front and centre and being so vocal about it? Really, you're not winning anybody's votes.
Because I think there are criticisms that I have of the Workers' Party. They're not pro-sound money. They're pro-printing more money. We can't afford to print more money because we're so in debt. They're not anti-net zero. George Galloway had the injections. He fell for lockdown. He went along with that. And if I go, okay, I'm not going to support Workers' Party because George Galloway went and had the injection, was 4 people having injections, then what we need to do, we need to unite. And there are some things we're going to have to set to one side, because George Galloway's he's anti-war. He's pro-liberty. He's pro-closed borders. So, okay, there are some things I don't agree with.
There's lots of, and I'm not saying David Curtin, I'm just saying, if you put that stuff on Twitter, if you write a sentence about, abortion being murder or whatever it was that he said, if you do that, that's going to turn a lot of people off. I'm not saying that I can't get on board with him with regards to all of that, right? And I'm not saying we should cancel anybody who thinks this way or anything like that. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, if this is your political party and you're coming out and saying that stuff, you're alienating half of your voters straight away.
Maybe. Because there are plenty of religious people, Muslims and Christians, who are opposed to abortion.
It's a segregating issue. It's like that boy from the Pakistan-India thing. He spotted the journalist was trying to say. The journalist was saying to him, "Oh, so you support Pakistan instead of India, or the other way around, or whatever it was." And he spotted it. He was like, "There you go, straight away. You've got your narrative. You know what I mean? You're building this up." This dividing thing, you're making that the issue, when the issue should be, no, we're all human.
Yes,
we're all human. You should have control over what your life and what you want to do, and I should too. It's that's where I want to join people and bring people together. And I'm sorry, telling people, women, that they're murderers or whatever it is. You're not making any friends, and you're not influencing anybody. And the influence is the influence you think it's having. It's a negative one.
Well, my position on it is we have to unite where we can, because we all face CBD.
I don't have a position on abortion, by the way. I just don't. My position is this: women, Do you? It's not for me to tell you.
Fair enough.
You've had centuries of men telling you what to do. I'm pretty sure that you're fed up with it right now. So you figure out what's best for you. End of.
Sure.
And
I'm of the same point of view, right? I think where the difference is between you and I is I'm saying, look, we can't get lost or end up divided because of some purity spiral. Because there are things with the Workers' Party that I do not agree with at all, and similarly with the Heritage Party. However, given what we're facing right now, which is the complete destruction of our nationhood, of our livelihoods, everything, the destruction of families, the destruction of religion and culture and faith. We have to unite against these great reset bastards.
Which is why it was all the more shocking to me when I opened up Twitter the other day and I saw that was his statement. It was like, fuck, that's the big issue right now that you want to concentrate on, the abortion issue. But nevertheless, he did, and that's what he was on.
Well,
It's like, wow.
David,
Got a lot of respect for David as well. He was at a lot of the Assange rallies. Good guy. David Curtin.
Oh, yeah. No. Well, he's from the liberty-loving right, yeah? And I would say Galloway's from the liberty-loving left. And there's going to be differences of opinion. I have differences of opinion with both. But I would much rather either of those monkeys than the sorry crowd that we have elsewhere. I mean, the Greens.
I want a proper democracy, mate. I want a proper democracy, a direct democracy where people choose. And honestly, we've got a system right now of technology in the world where they can count 86 million votes on American Idol in a commercial break and verify that they're...
Or India. India gets their results in about 24 hours.
Right. We've got a system here where it would not be difficult to actually have the electorate informed on an issue or given, like, a task. Okay, we need to solve out the energy crisis. If we're not going to get our cheap oil or whatever, what can we do for energy? And the people of this country will come up with the solutions in ways that you cannot possibly fathom. They will come up with some wacky ideas too. If you give them money, some of them will spend it down the pub and getting pissed. But others will come and solve whatever your problem is. And if we implemented a system like this with some sort of direct democracy where we get, I don't know, every month there's something that we concentrate on, and maybe there's one big thing a year that we could concentrate on and educate ourselves, and actually you could pay people to invest their time in your own country and researching stuff for the benefit of your own country. We'll be catching up with China. We won't be falling behind. We'll be catching up if that was the case. But we're not. We're stuck in this never-ending cycle of electing the same people over and over again, the very people that got us into this fucking disastrous mess in the first place, because they're the people who are saying we're the only people who can get us out of it. Well, you've got us here. Time and time and time again. And you've got us here by doing the same things over and over again. Einstein called that insanity. And that's exactly what it is. This is stupid that you're just going to try and extract wealth from people to such a degree. You're not just doing it with regards to the, land and whatever, the health service, the National Health Service, where you've extracted all the money out of that. And obviously, we know what happened to the waterworks since that's been privatised. That's another way of extracting wealth out of a country. And when's it going to end? Well, it's not going to end until 1% of the people have got all the money and everybody else has not got any. And when that happens, and it's getting to that point, it's not there yet, but it's getting there. When that happens, the people are going to come for you. And all the money in the world is not going to save you. And that's where we're heading. And this is why I'm saying to the millionaires, go, leave, go on. We don't fucking want you here. You think you're going to take your £1 million bakery and leave and nobody's going to be able to buy bread again? Of course not. Another one will replace you really, really quick. Leave. It's not like you were paying any tax anyway. Where everybody knows when you get to being a millionaire, tax is a choice because the loopholes you're using. What are those loopholes, by the way? Trust funds. We should look into that. Maybe there's a way that we could stop paying our tax with trust funds.
We could indeed use trust to stop paying our tax and democratize tax resistance as a way of protesting against how this government is spending money to kill people abroad and destroy our livelihoods at home. bit.ly/makewarhistory or bit.ly/lawful tax revolt. Or lawful tax protest, that's it.
Lawful tax protest, yeah. Nice one.
Yeah. Very good, very good. But the direct democracy, I think Switzerland has something like that, the way that it's broken up. And they have regular referenda. But then with blockchain, we can have that. Blockchain will allow that we can have local referenda.
It's like you'll get people signing up to it. And obviously, if people sign up to it, they'll have to sign up to it and make sure that they, A, are a real person, and B, are anonymous. So it solves all of your problems with regards to, making sure that you're enabling the system that's required to almost create itself. But instead, now they want to play God, and they want to endlessly print money backed by nothing other than, well, the only thing that's keeping our economy alive right now is endless money printing and wishful thinking, and that's it. That's the only thing that's keeping. What's the debt now? 40 trillion. Who's counting? Right? Who gives a shit?
And then when they find more magic money machines, well, hey.
Maybe some poor African country will find a gold mine or two, and they'll have some democracy coming their way.
Yeah, courtesy of the Western hegemons. All right, Gordon. Anything else? Anything else you want to chat about? We haven't covered.
Yeah, I would just say to people, this is all really depressing, and we've tried to put a spin on it. I think both of us. Take solace in your family and your friends, because they're the people who are really important in your life, and not people way off like KEYSTONE and whatever. It's your family, and if we're going to change, let's try and do it at home. Reach out to people you haven't spoken to for a while. Ask how they're doing. If you've got a friend that's struggling, give them a call. Just be the humanity that you want to see in the world.
Absolutely. And I'm quite a bit optimistic. It is crumbling. It is.
The millionaires are leaving. If the millionaires are leaving, we're on the right track.
Yeah, well, more and more people are waking up. More and more people are waking up.
And the millionaires are scared we're going to come for them, and they're right.
No, it's the politicians. Those puppets. They're the ones. We've got to pull their strings instead of having their owners pull their strings. They've got to do our bidding.
Maxwell.
Gordon, thank you so much. I'll have the links in the description below, and you'll have links in the description below. Yeah. We'll speak again in a few weeks' time. All the best.
Take care, mate.
I give you your own metaphysical profile. You then end up working at your best. It puts you back in touch with your own sovereign essence. I use tropical astrology, Vedic astrology, tarot, and numerology. Your best way to get in touch with me is via monarchmoon.co.uk.